So you think silence is pointless, don't you? Maybe you believe it's weak, unproductive, or just another wasted effort. I get it. You've been conditioned to think that actions, loud, immediate actions, are the only way to make an impact. But let me challenge that thinking. Pause for a moment. Who told you silence doesn't work? Was it your doubts whispering in the dark? Was it their indifference that pushed you to keep proving yourself, speaking louder, hoping they'd finally hear you? Or was it just the frustration of not seeing results yet, of feeling invisible? Here's the truth. Silence works powerfully, profoundly, and in ways you cannot yet imagine. But you've misunderstood its purpose. Silence isn't a tactic to make them notice you. It's a revolution to make you rediscover yourself. Silence is not about revenge or manipulation. It's about transformation. And if you're still sitting there wondering if silence has any effect, trust me, it does. It's not just a pause. It's the roar they can't control, the mirror they cannot look away from, and the weapon they never expected. But this isn't about them. It's about you. This is your journey to reclaim your strength, rebuild your confidence, and step into the person you were always meant to be. Your silence doesn't hurt them, it heals you. What if I told you that the very thing you're afraid of, letting go, going silent, will be the key to everything you've been searching for? What if you realized that silence is not empty, it's full of answers, clarity, and unstoppable power? Stick with me, because by the end of this, you'll understand how silence becomes your greatest weapon. Not to punish, not to harm, but to liberate. Because, my friend, the moment you embrace silence is the moment you take back control of your life. Are you ready? Good? Let's begin. 1. The grand transformation. Becoming unstoppable, untouchable, and unapologetic. Imagine standing on the edge of your old life. Behind you is everything you once clung to. The need for validation, the constant chase, the endless striving to prove your worth to someone who never deserved it. Ahead of you, silence. It feels unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. But that silence is where your greatest transformation begins. For years, you knocked on their door, begged for their approval, and accepted less than you deserved. They taught you to believe that your worth depended on their attention. Every unanswered text, every rejection, every cold indifference made you feel small, unseen, and unworthy. But let me ask you this, who gave them that power? Did you? Or did they just take it because you let them? Here's where the shift happens. When you embrace silence, you're not just stepping away from them. You're stepping into yourself. Silence becomes the doorway to your grand transformation. And once you walk through, there's no turning back. You'll start to see things clearly, as if you've finally taken off a pair of foggy glasses. Why do you care so much about their opinion? Is it because you believe their validation defines you? Does their approval make you whole? Or is it just a habit, a desperate attempt to hold on to something familiar, even when it hurts? Let me tell you what Stoicism teaches us. The only validation you need is your own. Your worth is intrinsic. It was never theirs to decide. The beauty of silence is that it forces you to confront yourself. It's uncomfortable at first. The noise of their absence can feel deafening, but in that stillness you find something powerful. The raw, unfiltered truth of who you are. You begin to realize that the person you were chasing was never the prize you are. Think of a phoenix rising from the ashes. The fire didn't destroy it, it purified it. Every rejection, every insult, every time they ignored you was part of the fire that burned away the parts of you that didn't belong. What's left now is something stronger, brighter, and completely untouchable. And it happened because you chose silence over chaos. You see, silence isn't just the absence of noise. It's the presence of clarity. When you stop begging, stop chasing, stop explaining, you send a powerful message, not to them, but to yourself. The message is simple. I am enough. You don't need their validation. You don't need their attention. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. And here's the irony. The moment you stop seeking their approval is the moment they start to notice your absence. Why? Because silence is unpredictable. They expected anger, drama, pleading. Instead, you gave them stillness. And in that stillness, they lose control. But don't make this about them. This transformation isn't a game to win their attention back. That's where most people go wrong. They use silence as a tool for revenge, hoping it'll make the other person miss them. That's not power. That's manipulation. True power is when you stop caring about their reaction altogether, when their absence no longer affects your peace, when you realize that silence isn't about them, it's about you reclaiming your life. Here's a question for you. Who would you be without their influence, without their criticism, without the constant need to be seen by them? That's the question silence answers. It gives you the space to redefine yourself, to rebuild into someone so whole, so strong, so unapologetically you that their opinion becomes irrelevant. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, patience, and courage to sit in the silence and face yourself. But I promise you this, once you embrace it, you'll become unstoppable. You'll move differently, think differently, and live differently. Your silence will no longer be a reaction to their behavior, it'll be the foundation of your strength. So, let me ask you again. Are you ready to rise? Are you ready to stop knocking on doors that were never meant for you? Are you ready to embrace the silence and let it transform you? Because the moment you do, you'll realize something incredible: you don't need them. You never did. And when they finally notice your silence, when they feel the weight of your absence, it won't matter. Because you'll have already moved forward. You'll have already reclaimed your power. This is your grand transformation. You're no longer the person you were. You're no longer the seeker, you're the destination. You're no longer someone who begs, you're someone who chooses. And your silence? That's the roar of a life finally lived on your terms. Are you ready to claim it? 2. The silent reset. Breaking free from their control. Let's strip everything down to its core. You've spent so much time, so much energy, giving pieces of yourself to someone who didn't deserve them. You gave your thoughts, your emotions, and your peace, hoping, always hoping, that they'd change, that they'd notice, that they'd finally see your worth. But tell me this. Why? Why do you still wait for their approval? Why do you still care whether they noticed your silence or not? Is it because you believe their attention is what makes you valuable? Or is it because they've convinced you slowly, subtly, that you're nothing without them? Here's the truth, my friend. You've been walking through life carrying their baggage, their expectations, their games, and you didn't even realize it. And silence. Silence is the moment you finally set it all down and say, enough. I think of it this way. You've been standing in front of a shattered mirror, trying to fix it, trying to make it whole again so they'll see you clearly. But here's the harsh reality: they're not even looking. They don't care about the cracks. They don't care about the effort you're pouring in. So why do you? Why do you keep giving your energy to something that's already broken? Silence is the act of stepping away from the broken mirror and turning your attention inward. It's where you stop chasing and start healing. It's where you stop looking for answers outside of yourself and find them within. Let me ask you this. What would happen if you hit the reset button? What would happen if, for once, you walked away, not to make them miss you, but to give yourself the space to breathe, to heal, to rebuild? Imagine what it would feel like to no longer care about their reaction, their opinions, or their games. Imagine a life where your energy is yours to keep. This silence isn't about punishing them, it's about freeing yourself. It's about creating a sanctuary where their noise no longer reaches you. It's about rediscovering the person you are when you're not bending yourself into shapes to fit their mold. But let's be honest, it's not easy, is it? Silence feels uncomfortable at first. The quiet moments can feel deafening because for so long you filled that space with their chaos. It's familiar. It's a habit. But familiar doesn't mean healthy. And just because you're used to their noise doesn't mean you need it. Think about this. How much of your life have you given away trying to please someone who never cared enough to meet you halfway? How many hours, days, or even years have you spent chasing approval that never came? Silence is your chance to reclaim those moments. It's your opportunity to say, I deserve better. I choose better. The moment you go silent is the moment you stop giving them control. They're no longer able to provoke you, manipulate you, or keep you in their loop. You're stepping off their stage, and trust me, they'll feel it. You see, they thrive on your reactions. Every word, every argument, every attempt to prove yourself feeds their ego. They know you're there, that you're waiting, that you'll respond. But when you go silent, you remove their power. They pull the strings, and nothing happens. Suddenly, the game they played so effortlessly falls apart. But here's the key. Silence isn't about them. It's about breaking free from the chaos they brought into your life. It's about hitting the reset button and giving yourself a clean slate. What could you build if you took all the energy you used to waste on them and poured it into yourself? Who could you become? Here's what Stoicism teaches us. True freedom comes from within. When you stop reacting, when you detach from their behavior and focus on your own growth, you become untouchable. Their games can't reach you anymore. Their opinions don't matter. Their absence no longer defines your worth. And that's where the real power lies. Your silence isn't weakness, it's a declaration. It's you saying, I will no longer participate in a game where I lose myself. But I'll warn you, they won't like it. They'll wonder where you've gone. They'll test you, hoping to pull you back in. I don't let them. Don't respond to the breadcrumbs. Don't explain yourself. You owe them nothing. Your silence says more than any words ever could. So here's my question for you. Are you ready to hit reset? Are you ready to walk away from the noise, the drama, and the games they've been playing for far too long? Are you ready to reclaim your peace and rebuild your life on your terms? If you are, I want you to do two things right now. First, hit that like button, because if you're here, you've already taken the first step. And second, leave a comment below saying number 1 if this message is hitting home for you. I want to see who's ready to take back their power and make silence their greatest weapon. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel. Join this community of growth, strength, and transformation, because this journey, your journey, is just getting started. This isn't about them anymore. It's about you. This silence isn't revenge, it's your reset. It's your moment to walk away from what no longer serves you and step into the life you deserve. Are you ready? 3. Detachment is power, letting go of the rope. Picture this. You're standing still, holding a thick rope tied to a massive boulder. Every step you take, you feel its weight, its resistance dragging you backward. You strain, you struggle, and every ounce of your energy is spent trying to move forward, but the rope won't let you. That rope, it's your attachment to them, the hope, the expectations, the endless attempts to make them see your worth. But what if I told you that you don't need to pull, that all you have to do is let go? Detachment isn't about walking away with anger or bitterness. It's not about proving a point or trying to make someone miss you. It's about freedom from the weight you've been carrying for far too long. It's about understanding that the only person who can set you free is you. Why are you still holding that rope? Is it because you're afraid of what happens when you let go? Do you fear they'll forget you, that you'll lose everything you fought for? Or do you think that holding on, dragging this weight, means you still have control? Let me challenge that. What control do you really have when you're tied to someone else's indifference? Stoicism teaches us one of the most liberating truths. We suffer not from the events themselves, but from the meaning we attach to them. It's not their actions that hurt you, it's the stories you tell yourself about those actions. Think about it. When they ignored you, did it mean you weren't good enough? Or was that just the meaning you gave it? When they pulled away, did it mean you were unworthy of love? Or was that their choice rooted in their own flaws, their own emptiness? Your suffering doesn't come from them. It comes from holding on to the idea that their actions determine your value. That's why detachment is so powerful. It's not about giving up, it's about letting go of the rope that's been holding you hostage. It's about reclaiming the energy you've wasted and redirecting it towards something that truly matters. You. Let's be honest, it's terrifying at first. The idea of letting go feels like losing. You think, if I detach, doesn't that mean I'm admitting defeat? Doesn't it mean they win? No, it means you win. It means you finally realize that your peace, your worth, and your happiness don't depend on someone else's behavior. Detachment is not indifference. It's not that you stop caring altogether. It's that you stop needing their validation to feel whole. When you detach, you free yourself from the emotional roller coaster they've kept you on. You stop reacting to their games, their breadcrumbs, their attempts to pull you back in. I think of it like stepping out of a storm. For so long you've been standing there, wind and rain lashing at you, hoping they'll come save you. But here's the truth, they won't. And the longer you stand there, the more you suffer. Detachment is stepping out of the storm. It's realizing you don't need their umbrella because you can build your own shelter. The beauty of detachment is that it shifts your focus inward. For the first time, you can ask yourself the questions that really matter. Who am I without their approval? What do I want for my life? What kind of person do I want to become? These are the questions silence answers. And the more you lean into that silence, the more you realize that you've been looking for something external that was always inside you. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine walking through a beautiful garden, carrying a bucket full of water. You're so focused on not spilling a drop that you miss the beauty around you. You miss the flowers, the colors, the sunlight. That's what attachment does. You're so focused on holding on to someone who doesn't see your worth that you miss the life that's waiting for you. Now imagine setting the bucket down. Let the water spill. Let it go. Suddenly you can look up, breathe, and take in the beauty around you. That's what happens when you detach. You let go of the weight, the noise, the need to be seen by them, and you rediscover yourself. When you embrace detachment, you start to see things clearly. You realize that their absence doesn't diminish your value. It doesn't make you smaller, weaker, or less lovable. It frees you to pour that energy into yourself. Focus on your growth. Work on your body, not to prove anything to anyone, but to remind yourself of your own strength. Train your mind, read books that challenge your perspective, learn new skills, and invest in your future. Heal your emotions, journal, meditate, seek therapy, and forgive yourself for the times you gave too much to people who gave too little. The more you focus on yourself, the stronger you become. And here's where the magic happens. The less you care about their approval, the more powerful you appear. When they see that their actions no longer affect you, when they realize that you're no longer reacting to their games, it shocks them. They were so used to controlling you, to pulling the strings and watching you dance. Now they're left with nothing but the silence you created. And that silence speaks volumes. But here's the key. This isn't about them. Detachment isn't a strategy to make them miss you or to prove a point. It's not a tool for revenge. It's a gift you give yourself. It's the act of finally stepping into your power and saying, I am enough, and I don't need you to see it for it to be true. So I'll ask you again, why are you still holding onto the rope? What are you afraid of losing when you let go? What if, instead of falling, you find yourself rising? What if, instead of losing, you realize you've gained everything you were searching for? Detachment is not the end of your story. It's the beginning. It's where you stop surviving and start thriving. It's where you turn the page on the chapter they wrote for you and start writing your own. Because you, my friend, are so much stronger than you know. And once you let go of the rope, you'll wonder why you ever held on so tightly in the first place. 4. The unexpected shift, when silence forces them to chase. Imagine a fisherman standing at the edge of a quiet lake. Day after day, he casts his net, confident the fish will swim in just as they always have. It's predictable, effortless, and he knows how the game works. But one day, something changes. He casts his net, and it comes back empty. Confused, he casts it again, still nothing. For the first time, he realizes the fish are gone, and the lake is still. That fisherman, it's them, that predictable fish. That was you, and now, you're gone. For so long, they relied on your reactions, your texts, your calls, your willingness to keep showing up even when they stopped trying. You were their safety net, the constant they could depend on. But silence changes the game in ways they never saw coming. It's the one move they can't control, the one response they didn't expect. Here's the truth. When you go silent, their confidence starts to crack. They thought they had you figured out, didn't they? They believed they could pull your strings whenever they pleased, that you'd always be there waiting. But now they're pulling at empty strings and nothing happens. At first they'll dismiss it. Oh, they're just upset. They'll come around. They'll brush it off, tell themselves you're just playing games. But as the days stretch into weeks, as your silence grows louder, something shifts. That smug certainty turns into doubt. They start to wonder, why aren't you reacting? Why aren't you reaching out? What changed? This is where the unexpected shift begins. Your silence forces them to do something they've been avoiding all along. Face themselves. You've taken away their ability to control you, and that void you leave behind is deafening. They'll try to provoke you, subtly at first. A casual hey text, a like on your social media post, maybe even an inside joke you once shared, thrown out there to tug at your heartstrings. They're testing the waters, trying to see if you'll bite, if they still have power over you. But this isn't a sign of love or regret. Don't get fooled. They're not reaching out because they miss you. They're reaching out because they miss the control. They miss the old version of you, the one who was always available, always reacting, always giving. Here's where you hold your ground. You don't react. You don't bite. You don't give them the satisfaction of knowing they've gotten to you. Because the moment you respond, the cycle starts all over again. The silence breaks, and they get exactly what they wanted. Reassurance that you're still there, still waiting, still tied to the rope you've worked so hard to let go of. So why does silence affect them so deeply? Because silence creates uncertainty. They can't figure out what you're thinking, where you've gone, or why you're no longer reacting. And for someone who thrives on control, that's terrifying. Think of it this way. They're like a puppet master pulling strings on an empty stage. For years they've been pulling at you, confident you dance to their rhythm. But now the strings are cut and the puppet is gone. That empty stage, that's where the power of your silence hits them hardest. Silence forces them to confront the truth about themselves, about their behavior, their flaws, and the void they've created. It's not a void you caused, it's a void your absence revealed. For the first time, they see the cracks in their own world, the emptiness they tried to ignore. And make no mistake, they'll feel it. But this shift isn't about them. It's about you. Don't lose sight of that. The temptation will come, you'll see their breadcrumbs, and a part of you will wonder, have they changed? Do they miss me? Is this their way of showing they care? But here's the truth. Nothing has changed except you. You've grown. You've reclaimed your power. You've stepped off their stage. And you know what? That's what scares them the most. They see the transformation happening in you, and it shakes their world. You're no longer the person they could manipulate, the one who sought their approval at any cost. Now you're silent, untouchable, and out of their reach. Let me ask you, what's more powerful? Yelling at someone who won't listen, or walking away so completely that they feel your absence in their bones? That's the unexpected shift. Your silence does what words never could. It forces them to see you differently, to question everything they thought they knew about you. But here's the key. Don't let their confusion pull you back in. When they start reaching out, when they throw those breadcrumbs your way, remember what this silence is for. It's not for them. It's for you. You didn't go silent to make them chase you. You went silent to reclaim yourself. Their reaction is not your victory. Your transformation is. So stay still. Stay grounded. Keep building yourself. Because every moment you resist their attempts to pull you back, you become stronger. Every time you choose silence over reaction, you prove to yourself that their power over you is gone. This is the shift they never expected, and it's not your concern whether they understand it or not. You're not here to teach them a lesson, you're here to heal. Now, if this message resonates with you, if you feel that shift happening within you, I want you to let me know. Hit that like button and leave a comment saying number 1 below. I want to see how many of you are ready to stand firm in your silence and embrace the transformation it brings. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. This isn't just another video, It's your journey to becoming unstoppable, untouchable, and unapologetically you. This shift has begun. Keep going. You're exactly where you need to be. 5. The silent echo, the weight of your absence. There's something haunting about silence, isn't there? It's not the absence of sound that makes it so powerful. It's the contrast. It's the void left behind after all the noise, all the chaos, all the shouting stops. For so long, your voice filled their world, your messages, your presence, your attempts to fix what they kept breaking. But now there's nothing. And that silence, my friend, is louder than any words you could ever say. At first, they won't notice. They'll dismiss it, brush it off, convince themselves that it's just a phase. Oh, they'll come around, they'll tell themselves. They always do. They've grown so accustomed to your presence, to your predictability, that the thought of you truly walking away doesn't cross their mind until it's too late. And when the silence lingers, when the days stretch into weeks, and your absence begins to grow like a shadow they can't escape, that's when the weight of it begins to hit. Suddenly they're alone in the quiet with no distractions, no noise to mask the emptiness they created. That silence becomes a mirror, one they cannot avoid. It reflects back everything they don't want to see. Their indifference, their manipulation, the cracks in the control they thought they had over you. And the more they stare into it, the more uncomfortable it becomes. Because here's the truth. They never expected you to stop trying. They never believed you'd truly walk away. Your silence defies their expectations. They thought they knew you. They thought you'd always be there, waiting, hoping, reaching out. And now they're left with the consequences of their own actions, and they don't know how to handle it. But don't make the mistake of thinking this silence is about them. It's not. It's about you. It's about breaking free from their games, their manipulation, and the emotional chaos they pulled you into for so long. You didn't go silent to hurt them. You went silent to heal yourself. That's the beauty of the silent echo. It's unintentional, but it's unavoidable. They can't escape it because silence creates scarcity. And what happens when something that was once abundant disappears? Its value skyrockets. For the first time, they see your worth not because you're trying to show it to them, but because they're forced to feel what life is like without you. And that void, it's not one they can fill. They'll try, of course. They'll replay the memories, dissect your last conversation, and scroll through old messages looking for clues. But the truth will hit them like a freight train. You're gone. You've pulled back the energy they once took for granted. You've removed yourself as their safety net. They've lost the comfort of knowing you're always there, and now they're left alone with the silence you created. And that silence, it screams louder than any argument, any confrontation, any final words could ever scream. But here's what's most important. Don't let the echo distract you. It's tempting, isn't it? When they start to notice your absence, when you can feel their confusion, their curiosity creeping back in, a part of you wants to go back. A part of you wants to prove your worth, to remind them of what they lost. But that's not your path anymore. The silent echo isn't your invitation to return. It's your reminder of how far you've come. It's proof that your silence has power, not because it affects them, but because it's healing you. Here's a question for you. Why do you need their validation? Why do you still wonder if they're thinking about you, missing you, regretting the way they treated you? What would happen if you let go of that need completely? The silent echo isn't about them chasing you. It's about you learning to stop chasing them. It's about embracing the stillness, the space, the clarity that silence brings into your life. Because in that silence, you discover something incredible. You don't need them. You never did. When you stop filling the space with noise, when you stop begging, explaining, or trying to make them understand, you allow room for something far greater. Your growth. You begin to pour that energy into yourself, into rebuilding the pieces of you they once shattered. Think about it like this. Silence is like a reset button. It wipes the slate clean. It allows you to rebuild your confidence, your self-respect, your sense of worth, this time not for anyone else, but for you. And while they're left wondering, searching, and replaying what went wrong, you're moving forward. You're becoming stronger, more grounded, and completely untouchable. But don't be surprised when the silence makes them panic. They'll reach out, desperate to break the void you created. Maybe they'll test you with a casual message. Hey, how are you? Maybe they'll post something online to get your attention. Maybe they'll even try to pull at your heartstrings with nostalgia or guilt. But remember this, their attempts to pull you back are not about love or change, they're about regaining control. They want the version of you who bent over backward for them, the one who gave everything and asked for nothing in return. That version, she's gone. And that's what silence teaches you. They never had power over you, you just gave it to them. And now, you've taken it back. The question now is simple. Will you allow their attempts to pull you back into the chaos? Or will you keep moving forward steady and silent as they wrestle with the echo of your absence? Because here's the truth about silence. It's not just a pause. It's a choice. It's you choosing peace over chaos, strength over weakness, and yourself over someone who never saw your worth. So let the silence linger. Let it echo in the corners of their mind, growing louder with each passing day. Let it remind them of everything they lost without you saying a word. And while they're chasing ghosts, you'll be building your future. While they're stuck in the past, you'll be rising into the strongest, most powerful version of yourself. Because silence isn't just quiet. It's a roar they can't control, a storm they can't escape, and a transformation they never saw coming. So keep going. Keep growing. The silence is working not for them, but for you. 6. The silence trap, when they try to re-enter. Here's something you need to understand. They will come back. They always do. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually the silence you've embraced will pull them back like a magnet. But don't mistake their return for love, regret, or a change of heart, because it's not. It's their ego, their pride, and their need to feel like they still matter to you. They'll come knocking, testing the waters, wondering if the door they thought they could walk through anytime is still open. Maybe it's a casual text. Hey, just thinking about you. Maybe it's something cryptic they post on social media, something they know will tug at your curiosity. Or maybe it's nostalgia, a reminder of a moment that once meant the world to you both. But here's the harsh truth. None of it is real. They're not reaching out because they've changed. They're not coming back because they suddenly see your worth. They're coming back because your silence is driving them crazy. It's forcing them to face something they've been running from, the reality that they no longer have control over you. So what happens when they realize the strings they used to pull no longer work? Panic. You see, your silence has shifted the balance of power. When you were chasing them, they felt secure. They knew they could come and go as they pleased because you'd always be there. But now you've broken that cycle. Your silence has become a boundary they can't cross, and they don't know how to handle it. Their return isn't about you. It's about them. It's about their need to know that you're still there, that they still have access to you. But let me ask you this. After everything you've been through, do they deserve that access? Think about it. Where were they when you needed them? When you were crying, hoping, begging for them to see your worth? What did they do? Did they show up? Did they care? Or did they turn their back, confident that you'd never leave? And now that you've gone silent, now that you've reclaimed your power, they want to come back. They're not mourning your absence. They're mourning the loss of control. This is what I call the silence trap. It's the moment when they try to pull you back into the same cycle you've worked so hard to escape. And the trap is tempting, isn't it? A part of you might wonder, what if this time is different? What if they've changed? What if they really mean it? But stop right there. Let me remind you of something important. Silence is not about them. It's about you. It's about the growth, the strength, and the clarity you found in their absence. You didn't go silent to make them chase you. You went silent to heal yourself. So when they come back, when they dangle those breadcrumbs in front of you, here's what you do. Nothing. You stay still. You stay grounded. You stay silent. Because if you respond, if you let them back in, the cycle starts all over again. They'll pull the strings, and you'll dance. They'll give you just enough attention to keep you hooked. just enough hope to make you stay. And then they'll disappear again, leaving you right where you started, hurt, confused, and asking yourself why you ever let them back in. So here's the question. What's more important to you, the temporary satisfaction of hearing from them, or the lasting peace you found in their absence? Silence isn't just the space between words. It's a boundary. It's you saying, you don't get access to me anymore. You don't get to hurt me again. And that boundary, it's not there to punish them. It's there to protect you. If they truly cared, they would have valued you when they had the chance. They wouldn't have waited until your silence forced them to notice your worth. Real love doesn't require silence to be seen. Real love doesn't take you for granted. So don't fall into the trap. Don't let their sudden interest undo all the progress you've made. They're not reaching out because they love you. They're reaching out because they miss the version of you they could control. But that version is gone. Let them feel the weight of your silence. Let them wonder why you're not responding. Let them face the reality of their own actions. Because this isn't about teaching them a lesson, it's about honoring yourself. Ask yourself, what do you really want? Do you want to go back to the chaos, the confusion, the games? Or do you want to keep moving forward, keep growing, and keep building a life that's full of peace, purpose, and power? Because here's the truth. You don't owe them a response. You don't owe them closure. You don't owe them anything. They lost their right to your energy the moment they took it for granted. So when they come back, and they will, hold your ground. Don't explain yourself. Don't let them back in. Let your silence speak for you. Because your silence says everything they need to hear. I've moved on. I've grown. And I don't need you anymore. And that, my friend, is power. Real, undeniable power. Now, if you feel that shift within you, if you're ready to stay strong and keep moving forward, I want you to do something. Hit that like button and leave a comment saying number 1 below. Let the world know that you're choosing peace over chaos, growth over games, and yourself over anyone who couldn't see your worth. And if you're not already subscribed, now's the time to join this community. We're not just talking about change, we're living it. This is where your transformation begins, and trust me, the best is yet to come. Stay silent, stay strong, and remember, you've already won. 7. Reclaiming your identity, building the new you. Who are you without them? Without their approval, without their presence, without the constant noise they brought into your life? It's a question that feels both freeing and terrifying. For so long, you've been wrapped up in their narrative, bending yourself to fit their expectations, dimming your light so they wouldn't feel threatened. But now, in the silence you've created, you finally have the space to ask, who am I really? This is where your true transformation begins, not in their absence, but in the rediscovery of yourself. The silence you embraced is not just an ending, it's the fertile ground where something new can grow. And that something is you. I think back to who you were before they came into your life. Before the games, the manipulation, and the chaos made you question your worth. Can you remember that person? The one who laughed freely, dreamed without fear, and didn't need anyone else's validation to feel whole. That person is still there. Beneath the layers of doubt, insecurity, and heartbreak, that person is waiting to rise. But this time, you're not returning to who you were. You're building someone stronger, wiser, and completely untouchable. Let's start with this. Your identity is not defined by what they think of you, what they say about you, or how they treated you. Your worth is not something they get to decide. That's the mistake we all make, isn't it? We let the opinions of people who don't deserve us shape the way we see ourselves. And when they walk away, when they reject us, it feels like a part of us is missing. But let me ask you, how can someone else's rejection define your value? Can a diamond become worthless just because someone doesn't see its beauty? Of course not. Your worth is inherent. It's there whether they recognize it or not. And silence. Silence is the first step toward reclaiming it. This is the moment where you stop looking outward for answers and start looking inward. This is where you stop asking, why didn't they see my worth? And start declaring, I am worthy regardless. Reclaiming your identity starts with rebuilding the relationship you have with yourself. For too long, you've neglected your needs, your dreams, and your potential. You poured all your energy into them, hoping it would be enough to make them stay. But now, that energy is yours to keep, and you can use it to create something beautiful. Start with your physical growth. When you take care of your body, you send a powerful message to yourself. I am worth the effort. Go to the gym, take those long walks, try that new sport you've always wanted to. Strengthening your body isn't just about appearance, it's about discipline, confidence, and proving to yourself that you can do hard things. Every time you push through a tough workout, you remind yourself of your own strength. Next, focus on your emotional growth. You've been through so much, don't pretend it didn't hurt. Silence gives you the space to heal. Journal your thoughts. Write down the things you wish you could say, and then let them go. Meditate. Breathe deeply. Allow yourself to feel the pain, but don't let it define you. As Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's great teachers, once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Emotional growth means setting boundaries and sticking to them. It means saying no when you need to, and not feeling guilty about it. It means refusing to let anyone else's behavior dictate your peace. When you honor your boundaries, you honor yourself. And that's how you build self-respect, step by step, decision by decision. Then comes your mental growth. Feed your mind with knowledge and inspiration. Read books that challenge your perspective. Learn new skills that excite you. Dive into hobbies you once loved but pushed aside because you were too focused on them. Expand your mind so much that there's no longer any room for their nonsense. When you grow mentally, you become unstoppable, not because you're proving anything to anyone, but because you're proving to yourself what you're capable of. And here's where the magic happens. As you grow physically, emotionally, and mentally, you become unreachable. Not because you're playing hard to get, but because you're genuinely too busy becoming the best version of yourself to care about their games. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine a castle standing high on a mountain. It's strong, impenetrable, and untouchable. That castle is you. You used to leave the doors wide open for anyone to walk in, hoping they'd stay. Now you're guarding those gates. You decide who gets access to your energy, your time, and your heart. And most people, they don't deserve it. You don't explain your absence. You don't overshare your growth. You let them wonder. You let them sit with the silence and realize what they lost. But here's the thing, you're not doing it for them. You're not building this castle to prove a point. You're building it because you deserve to live in a fortress of peace, power, and purpose. The version of you they knew, the one who begged, who chased, who accepted crumbs, is gone. You've outgrown them. And when they try to return, when they come back thinking they can waltz through those gates, they'll find them locked. Not out of spite, but out of respect. Respect for yourself and for the journey you've been on. Because you didn't go silent to win them back. You went silent to win yourself back. And that's what reclaiming your identity is all about. Remembering who you are, rebuilding who you want to be, and refusing to let anyone else decide your worth. So let me ask you, who are you becoming? What dreams will you chase now that you're no longer tied to someone who held you back? How will you use this silence to rebuild yourself into someone so strong, so confident, so untouchable that their absence feels insignificant? The answers are waiting for you in the silence. And as you step fully into this transformation, you'll realize something incredible. You don't need them. You never did. Keep building. Keep growing. The person you're becoming is worth every ounce of energy you once wasted on someone who couldn't see your light. So here you stand on the edge of the life you used to know and the one you're building. The silence you've embraced isn't a pause, it's the start of your grand transformation. You're not the same person who entered this journey. You've grown. You've shed the weight of their expectations. You've reclaimed your identity, and now you're rising stronger, wiser, and completely untouchable. You've stopped chasing them. You've stopped explaining yourself. You've stopped needing their validation to feel whole. And do you see what's happening now? The person they took for granted no longer exists. They lost access to you the moment you realized you didn't need them to be happy, to be whole, or to be enough. And while they're left wrestling with the silence, the emptiness, the confusion, the regret, you're stepping forward into a life full of purpose, power, and peace. Because that's what silence does. It transforms you. It clears the noise, reveals the truth, and makes space for something new, something better. But here's the thing. This journey isn't over. The silence is just the beginning. It's the foundation on which you'll rebuild your confidence, your self-worth, and your future. What happens next is entirely up to you. Who do you want to become? What dreams will you chase now that you've stopped chasing someone who couldn't see your value? There's a fire inside you, one that's been smothered for too long. They tried to dim your light, but your silence reignited it. And now you're unstoppable. You're no longer playing small, no longer shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that weren't meant for you. You're rising into the person you were always meant to be. But let's make one thing clear. This transformation is for you. It's not about making them miss you, regret you, or chase you. It's about building a life so fulfilling, so powerful that their absence feels irrelevant. Your silence isn't revenge, it's freedom. It's the key that unlocks everything you've been searching for. I think of yourself as a phoenix. The ashes of your old self are scattered behind you, the version of you that gave too much, asked for too little, and forgot her worth. But from those ashes, something new has emerged. A version of you that is strong, resilient, and unapologetically whole. And as you rise, remember this. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone. You don't need to explain your silence or justify your growth. Let them wonder. Let them feel the echo of your absence. Let them sit in the void you created and figure out what they lost. Because while they're still trying to make sense of the silence, you're already miles ahead, living a life they can't touch. This is your moment. This is where you reclaim your power, your peace, and your life. So I'll ask you one last time. Who are you becoming? What will you create now that you've taken back the energy you used to waste on them? If this message has resonated with you, if you feel that shift deep within you, I want you to take this as your wake-up call. The silence you've embraced isn't the end of the story, it's the beginning of a life that's fully yours. Now it's your turn. Step into your power. Walk away from the noise, the chaos, and the games. Embrace the silence because it's the roar of your transformation. You are no longer the person who begs, who chases, or who waits. You are someone who chooses. You are unstoppable. You are untouchable. And you are enough. If this has been the reminder you needed, take a moment to reflect and breathe. You've come so far already, and this is just the beginning. Keep going. The version of you that's waiting on the other side is worth every step. And finally, if you're ready to step fully into this transformation, if you've made the choice to reclaim your power, I want you to declare it. Not for me, not for them, but for yourself. Type "I am rising" in the comments below. Let the world know that you're stepping into your strength, your silence, and your new life. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and join this community of growth and transformation. We're on this journey together, and I promise you, the best is yet to come. You are unstoppable, you are untouchable, and you are enough. Now go out there and live like it. Thank you for being here. Your silence has power, and so do you.